Entertainment, we celebrate the 43-year reign of the speed metal kings, Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage for the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Well, it's much later than we planned on doing it, but we're finally getting to our post-game reaction for Auburn versus Alabama. Iron Bowl 2025 is in the books. We're going to talk about it, the score, the stats, and the storylines. All that coming up right now. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we discuss sharing the Auburn experience, which to us is all about a few things: Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, though, is if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to be doing on this late evening here, post-game reaction show. Auburn versus Alabama 2025, the Iron Bowl, the greatest rivalry in all of sports. It is a fun one no matter how many times it's played, no how many different ways, where it's played. It's the best rivalry in sports. And it was a good one tonight in terms of the closeness of a match. And I know that's a triggering word for Auburn fans out there. Your final score, 27-20. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the individual stats, the team stats, storylines amongst all that. Spend probably just a little bit of time on that tonight. We won't do an extended thing because it's time to kind of turn the page and look forward and do some of that. But we're not going to do that in this stream. In this stream, we are solely focused on what just happened, maybe a few hours ago, actually, but what actually happened out there on the field. I know most of you will want to focus on, the future stuff, all those types, who's leaving, who's coming in as far as head coach. We're not going to focus on that here today. And we'd ask you to kind of keep it there as well. And we'll try our best to give you something to digest at least a little bit here today as we try to wrap up the last time from the mobile broadcast studio, at least for football season, here on the loveliest village on the plains. All right, final score 27-20. Obviously, let's walk through some individual stats first for the Auburn Tigers. Ashton Daniels, 18 of 39 on the day for 259 yards. I'll be honest with you, I did not realize he had 259 yards, 1 touchdown, but it's a 46 completion rating. But he does have a passer rating of 105. So I'm a little bit shocked, to be honest with you, that he had as many yards and that we had a passing game of some semblance in this particular game. At times it felt like that really wasn't there, but we'll look at it a little bit deeper here. He's your only passer on the day. A lot of people wanted to see Deuce Knight in the game and felt at times that maybe he would have provided a little bit more of a spark. I'm just someone that's not really I don't get on those hype trains too quickly, especially when it's against Mercer. I think Deuce Knight did had a great game last time and did exactly what he was supposed to do and probably impressed a little bit more. But I don't know that I would have thrown him into the Wolves here. And Ashton Daniels obviously gave the Auburn Tigers an opportunity to compete for an opportunity to win the game. So I don't know if that would have made much of a difference overall. So rushing today, we'll come back to rushing. Let's finish up on the receiving side of things. 18 of 39, 8 total receivers get the ball in the day. 5 go to Cam Coleman, 43 yards. We'll talk about that last one. Malcolm Simmons, 3 catches for 143 yards, 1 touchdown, a long of 66. 101 yards after catch. That's pretty incredible. So 2 big games for him in a row. Eric Singleton, 3 for 26. Bryce Kane, 2 for 11. Nice to see him in the mix a little bit more. Jeremiah Cobb, 2 for 9. Brandon Frazier, 1 for 19. Preston Howard, 1 for 5. And then Justin Jones, who got utilized quite a lot in a variety of ways in this game. He had a catch as well. So distributed the ball to a lot of different people. And honestly, Ashton Daniels' numbers could have looked a lot better first of all, let's talk about what he could have done a little bit. I thought tonight he was zipping the ball in there a little bit too quick for some of his guys at times. However, the rule of thumb is you're a receiver. Even if you're a running back, you're in a receiving position. If it hits you in the hands, you got to catch the ball. So a lot of drops tonight, some from tight ends, some people you wouldn't normally expect. I think there's a quote from Durkin out there as well about guys are normally catching these types of passes that are thrown their way. And it just wasn't happening tonight. Dropped balls is the story of the game in a variety of ways, not just through passing, but through dropping the ball on the floor or on the ground, I should say. Cam Coleman, unfortunately, the season ends with his fumble, and it was a fumble. Clearly, that is a tough way to go out in the grand scheme of things. You know, I looked at the people I was sitting with, shout out to them, and said that if Alabama scores another touchdown, Auburn would lose the game. And here we said, and that was when we were tied 2020. I just felt that they weren't going to be able to keep up with them throughout the course of the game. But there is some credit that goes to Auburn for being able to, you know, fight back after being down 17-0 and making a 20-3 run to tie the thing up, and just couldn't hang on for too much longer here. So look at their rushing. Rushing is an enigma today. It really is. Ashton Daniels had a 23 attempts, 108 yards, a long of 24.7. So to the individual I was sitting with, if you're watching, obviously it was a lot better than we thought it was. But it was very weird and odd at times. I thought there were a lot of designed quarterback runs that didn't go very many places, but clearly it was more effective than we gave it credit for initially. Jeremiah Cobb only gets 10 attempts on the day, only 10 for 33 yards, but he does get that touchdown. Justin Jones gets a couple, Eric Singleton on one as well. The rushing attack, everyone simply says just run the ball more and it'll work. And I still continue to push back on that narrative. I've just seen way too many times this offensive line not be able to provide a consistent route to run for a variety of backs, if not the quarterbacks themselves. And sometimes they're just great athletes and are able to make their way even without a little bit of help from them. I don't know. It's so easy to look back and say, just run the ball and it'll work. And it's really never quite that simple. Sorry, I thought we had another little Uber incident for those of you guys that are watching. By the way, part of the reason we are starting late this evening, for those of you that are watching live or just in the replay, you're probably like, what are you talking about? We had to move sites because they were asking us all to vacate the area that we were all parked in. And that was literally almost set up. And I had to like, okay, I got to move. Anyway, that doesn't really care. Y'all don't really care about that. But just a little bit of insight to what's going on there. All right, so there's some individual stats for the offense. Let's look at the defense real quickly. Tonight, your leading tacklers, Caleb Harris, Kieran Crawford, Jamison Travis, Bobby Jamison Travis are all tied with 5. Kayan Lee with 4, Robert Woodyard with 3, Falk, and then a bunch with 3, Falk, Atkins, Smith. Sylvester Smith had a great game today, I thought, or a decent game with some pass breakups and coming in and hitting people well. So you kind of look at the stat lines here. Caleb Harris has 5 total tackles, 1 sack, which is the tackle for loss. You look at Xavier Atkins, 3 tackles, but he has a half a sack, 1.5 sacks. So that's this tackle for loss, which includes a quarterback hurry. Bryce Dees had some really good plays earlier in the game, kind of quietly faded a little bit as the game went on, but started out hot. His name and his D. I hear so many different pronunciations. Obviously, the Auburn announcer would know best, but I've heard it say Bryce Dees and been corrected that it's Bryce Dees, but it was Diaz tonight on the broadcast. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's what we have to talk about when we're all sad about what's happening here tonight. Sorry, I got some stuff going on with the nose here tonight, sitting out in the cold. Okay. That's the individual stats. Let's talk about let me go back over here and go to the total yards, all that kind of stuff. If there is a moment, a player that you guys want to bring up, please certainly do that. And we'll do our best to kind of hit that as we go throughout the rest of the stream here. Total yards in the day. Auburn has 411 yards to Alabama's 280. There is just from that stat alone, that's even more infuriating that the Auburn could move the ball and was not able to get the win here today. Pass yards, only 122 for Alabama, 259 for Auburn. Rush yards, Alabama wins by 6, so basically the same. Penalties, More in Auburn's favor and some pretty egregious ones, I grant you. We're not going to sit here and focus on that, even though those are pretty obvious and don't really have to be discussed any further. But Alabama got a few of those as well. Auburn won in first downs. Auburn was okay on third down. Alabama was not great on third down, but they were great on fourth down. Total plays is the same. Big discrepancy in average yards per completion for Auburn to Alabama. Auburn leads that. Just kind of walking through average yards per rush is exactly the same. Red zone, both teams were efficient. Alabama was just there twice as much. What else here? Fumbles. Man, goodness. 4 fumbles for Auburn. Only 1 is lost, but they were dropping the ball left and right. 1 sack for Alabama, 3 for Auburn, which, kind of increases your tackles for loss there. So, obviously, we have some things that happened in this game. I know that was the most redundant statement ever. You walk out of this stadium after the season that you've had, and it just feels like this game was yet another same thing, same old. Now that we've walked through the stats and talked about it a little bit, I disagree with my initial reaction walking out of the statement that this is the same old. There was a little bit more nuance to the team in this one. They actually came back from a 17-point deficit and was able to, as I lost my mouse there, and were able to fight back. So you got to give them a little bit of credit in that sense. And why wouldn't you? It's the Iron Bowl, so you're going to be, very motivated for that one. It's frustrating because this is 6th in a row for Alabama. It's frustrating because this is not a good Alabama team in as good of teams that we've seen. So this was just prime for the taking yet again. So that's 3 Iron Bowls in a row where a Auburn team that is either very bad or just not up to the level that Alabama is on paper. Auburn could have taken them down and wasn't able to get the job done with different coaches each time. It's just... it's tough, man. It is tough. It is tough. Okay, so that's individual stats, team stats. The only thing that we didn't do was special teams. Like I said, we were going to do this fast this evening. Alex McPherson with 2 great kicks, 1 from 43. I didn't think he was going to make that with a little bit of wind that was whipping through there, but he certainly did. So great showing by him. All right, so let's what other comments, questions, topics, ones that are productive? Some of y'all are just not productive. Do you have out there specifically about this game? We're not focusing on the future in this stream. This is about the game. I know that some of you want to move on to that. That's not what we're doing here. But if there is some things that you'd like to further discuss from this game, I know probably not, but drop that in the chat. I'll give you a couple of reminders here that we have for you coming up. First of all, our next scheduled live stream, I wouldn't miss it. The Auburn Experience live podcast recording 152, episode 152, tomorrow evening, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, with Austin and myself. We'll be back in the saddle. We will put a pin in this game and probably the season, or we'll decide how we break that down and kind of rehash. We've got obviously some news that'll probably be coming out in the next couple of days about Auburn's future that we'll have to either discuss on this episode or the next. So even though football season is done, the football topics still will abound, and they are certainly can be plenty to talk about in that realm. So all that to be said, that's what you got to look forward to next from us here. All right. Like I said, we're looking for productive things. We're just going to get rid of the bammers that are here that are not being productive, like Carol. What else do you guys want to talk about that is productive? Why can other teams correct mistakes and start winning? Why can't we do this? Because we are close. I'll be very honest with you, and some of you aren't going to like my answer. I think some of y'all are, and it's not a reflection on you necessarily, Rodney. You're just the guinea pig that asked the question and bringing up this topic. Some of y'all are just not willing to reconcile with the fact that this is the product of what you wanted when you wanted Ismail Zahn gone back in 2020. This is how far this has fallen. It didn't have to be this way. You can be mad at me for saying it. You can say I'm annoying by saying it, but the facts are in. It did not have to be this way. This is how far we've fallen. Unfortunately, I don't know that we're going to be able to retain much of what we've got right now, especially if some things, don't improve, and hopefully they get the head coaching situation down. One of the other things that I saw, a lot of commentary about, that this one game proves that DJ Durkin should not be considered for head coach. I think that is probably one of the more intellectually dishonest opinions you can probably espouse right now. But you can't judge whether someone would be a good head coach or not simply off of inheriting a very bad situation and trying to make lemonade out of lemons. And I think at times he did dang good job. But anyway, we got a lot of good things. So I'm going to disagree with you on this, WT. I mean, the last season was not very good either, but it doesn't change the fact that we were highly competitive. We were in all the games, all the major ones for the most part. He could compete with the best year in and year out. He could recruit well. And I know you're doing that mainly because we know each other that well enough, getting to know on here. But the facts are in on this, and to ignore it now is just not being willing to reconcile with it. The decision to fire Gus Malzahn, it is still to this day affecting us. And the sooner that we reconcile with that and accept that, we'll go a long way in building some patience and understanding of all of this. But yeah, so we'll focus right now mainly on the football game. If there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, I'm trying to think, since we're doing this just so fast this evening, any other points of interest from this game. We talked about the penalties. We talked about the fumbles. The ball was dropped every which way, whether it was fumbles, whether it was, the just not catching the ball. This was an Alabama team that I was not impressed by in the least. I mean, Ty Simpson made an absolutely great throw there to score that last touchdown on fourth down. You got to give him credit for that. But certainly there's a lot to be had there in terms of wanting some things back there. But all that to be said, there it is. The Auburn Tigers fall 20-27. We will focus our attention forward after this stream. This stream was solely about the game and kind of putting this final one to bed in our last broadcast from the mobile broadcast studio for Auburn football season 2025. It is done. It is complete. And I have enjoyed it, even though most of our post-game streams here in the mobile broadcast studio have not gone well in terms of the results that we wanted, maybe the results that you wanted out of this stream. But I still enjoy doing these with you guys, and very much appreciate all of you stopping in, whether you agree with my opinions and my thoughts on these things or not. It is always, not sometimes, not anyways, always great to be an Auburn Tiger. And as we leave you this evening, I want to remind you of a couple of things that the Auburn Creed asks you to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. We ask you to do the same. War Eagle.